Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a good chat. I ducked into both rooms for a couple of minutes and sounded like we were having some good conversation. So thanks all. And I think that leaves us with the big topic of the day, which is WordPress versus HubSpot. So Andy, as our expert in CMS and WordPress, please feel free to add your commentary in here. But I'm going to talk a little bit, and then feel free to expound on what we got. So I think the big thing on HubSpot versus WordPress, to me at least, is how serious you are as a marketer and as a selling person. If you just need a website and it needs to do something, if you're looking for a brochure, then maybe investing in HubSpot CMS, certainly at the pro level, isn't necessary. There are free and starter versions that might be good for you if you need to have a relationship with the people that you're working with. But if you just need to hang a shingle, it's probably overkill. So the benefits for me, of course, having a single platform. I don't need to log into 17 different places. I don't need to have a MailChimp or a Constant Contact. I don't need to log into a separate CMS or WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or Weebly or whatever. I just need to log into my HubSpot, and every contact that I make with every person that I connect with is there. We're going to talk more about easy editing, but that's certainly one of the benefits and probably one of the biggest eye openers. I know, Liz, you've done a few content bits for us at BusyWeb, and it's a whole lot easier to just go in and click and edit inside of HubSpot than it is WordPress. So, the drag and drop editor, and we're going to show you some fast code and how you can do things in kind of rapid prototype. It really takes it from a develop or call your web developer, wait a couple of weeks or a couple of months, or in some cases with new clients that we've brought on, they wait a couple of years and then they get frustrated and they talk to us. It's easy. And you can absolutely make sure that only the right people have access. With WordPress, it's kind of on or off. What am I missing, Andy?
So I think one thing that you hit on a little bit, and I think Trigby also talked about this a little bit, is it depends on the motive and what you need for the site, right? So if it's a quick, easy site. Now, HubSpot's recently, with their starter, has expanded that even if you're just hanging a shingle out, you can get a 50-page website from HubSpot for the starter price, which really for most businesses is more than enough to get going. If you just need something to get out there,
Right.
I would say yes, WordPress is quick and easy and it's well known, although I feel that people get frustrated with it quite a bit.
Right.
HubSpot as a CMS, you've got everything in one, right? You've got your CRM, you can set up a support system. So if somebody's got questions about your products or needs help with them, you've got a support system. You can integrate into other systems such as QuickBooks pretty quickly and easily. So all your billing and everything else can be done right through it. The single platform really expands quite rapidly when you start looking at what HubSpot can do and the different built-in integrations.
Sweet. And I know we had a little bit more, but the hosting headaches, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about that when we get into WordPress. But you're not paying for hosting with HubSpot. You're just paying for access to the system. And there is a con there in that if you don't want HubSpot anymore, you're going to have to change. But even if you decide to change, you can develop the website, and then you can just export the code, the HTML, to still have it. So it's not like you're losing it entirely, but you're just there. Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
So on that, yeah, you had mentioned it, but you can export everything you build within HubSpot right out to an HTML. Up to and including your forms, which was something that, when our development team was looking at it, it's like, well, great, you can export the HTML of the pages, but what do you do with all this content in these forms that go in? No, you can actually export those forms and take them anywhere. And just any host, for the most part, will handle an HTML site. So the portability on WordPress versus HubSpot is almost been eliminated with that. Now, continuous development post that will take more work, but to take it out of HubSpot and move it is not that difficult.
Right. Andy, I see some techie nerdy things on these in these bullets. Can you explain more what a CDN and a WAF and a SSL is?
Sure. So the CDN is a content delivery network. What this generally means is when you're working with a WordPress hosting environment or any standard website hosting, you want to get your biggest media files as close to the end user as possible. Um, a content delivery network would be something similar to a Google or an Amazon
Mm,
or something like that, where they have data centers across the country and around the world that get your media, such as images, videos, into those data centers that are closer to your end user, um,
mhm.
versus sitting on your single server wherever that might be where your website sits. So it could be in Grand Rapids, Michigan, it could be in Phoenix, Arizona, it could be in New York City or Chicago. But if you've got users that are across the country, it's going to take longer for those pages to load. So a CDN really gets you that data closer to those end users,
Got it.
which makes the page load faster, which makes customers stay on the page longer. They get to see more information quicker.
Got it.
How fast should a page load?
Pardon?
How fast should a page load?
Depending on the content on the page, between a second and a half to 2 seconds would be all the slower that I would expect any page to load. If you're just looking at a content page that has a couple of images on it, should be a half a second to load. And a lot of that's dependent on a lot of other things, which we'll dig into, such as hosting, server it's sitting on, where it's sitting, all of that. How much you're paying for it if you're not
Mhm.
using HubSpot. With this, with HubSpot's, you're sitting on HubSpot's data centers. They actually have a distributed network around the world. They're also sitting on multiple different, what we'll call backbones of the internet, right? These are the main pipelines of the internet, so that that data gets to you quicker than any other place out there.
Mhm.
A
Got it.
web application firewall is just that. It's a firewall. It stops the bad guys from getting in. You can get these with WordPress. You can buy these, but these are generally a paid add-on. Um, there are ones out there that are phenomenal. Security is one that's well known out there that you can buy and you can pay, and they actually monitor and maintain the site.
Hmm.
This is built right into HubSpot. HubSpot has a team of experts that's all they do is they look for distributed attacks against the system and they mitigate them before they come in. In SSL, this is pretty standard across the internet now that you need an SSL. A lot of WordPress hosts are starting to offer this for free, but there's some out there that you still need to pay for this. So an SSL is a security socket layer, which allows all data that's transferred between the website and your computer to be encrypted. This includes form data. This includes any pages you visit, anything like that. It's all encrypted so that some third party, unless it's allowed on the website, cannot see what you're doing on that website. So this is built-in standard. And then
Sweet.
finally, the 24/7 threat monitoring. This again is usually a paid add-on to WordPress. This would be something like Managed WP, or Security also has some threat monitoring. This is usually looking at your exact site, making sure that nothing is attacking it. And if it is, it's mitigating that. It also can lead into um, distributed attacks. So if there's a bot
Mhm.
network out there or a network of hackers that are trying to get to multiple sites at once, it can see that there's a pattern that's forming and stop that across all of the HubSpot CMS sites rather than just the single CMS site.
Got it. Okay. Sweet. And that works good, but it's not all rosy. So tell me about the bumps that we've seen in the road so far, Andy.
So the one thing when we built our own site, busyweb.com on HubSpot CMS, is there was no events calendar. We do a lot of events such as the hug we're doing today. There's other speaking events. There was no built-in module yet for events calendar. HubSpot CMS is a younger content management system. It's been around a few years versus WordPress, which has been around almost 2 decades now. So there are still some of those plugins and modules that aren't built out fully. At the recording now, I think there is one calendar or plugin that we can get from the asset marketplace, but
Mhm.
it's still not fully flushed out without a developer. So that's one thing that we had to do. E-commerce, if you just want to do e-commerce and do a quick site, you can plug in WooCommerce into WordPress at the base level of WordPress. For HubSpot CMS, you need enterprise level, which is not a cheap investment to get a full e-commerce solution.
Mhm.
Similar with the customer portal, if you want some kind of a customer portal or some kind of a subscription site or something like that, right now that's only allowed at the HubSpot enterprise level for CMS. Whereas again, you can find a plugin for that on WordPress, and you can do that at your base WordPress. Search. Search is more difficult within HubSpot CMS. It's not impossible, but trying to get a search plugin that goes across everything is a little bit more difficult in CMS, and you generally need a developer to help you set that up to get that
Right.
going.
So it is possible. It's just harder to do if you're not a developer.
That is correct. Whereas with WordPress, that's a plug and play. It's built into the system to get those search results coming back.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, sweet. So really what we kind of rounding up HubSpot and the benefit before we get into WordPress is that it's really the one source of truth. And when we talk about revenue operations, the act of generating revenue for your organization, there's a number of things that go into that, right? So the content of your website and all of the other things that go into it, including email marketing, social media marketing, advertising, SEO, all of that goes into the attract phase of growing your business. HubSpot CMS is built for that. And all of your contacts are in there. If you know who your person is, if you've had interactions with that person before, you can customize that website to them. And so it's, hey, Bill, or hey, Mary, not, hey, random person that we have no idea who you are, right? So it's just a more integrated conversation, and it can send signals then to people. So if I have a prospect that's visited my website, they've gone to my About Us page twice, they've downloaded a form maybe, or maybe they've just visited like 12 pages in the past half hour, I can send a signal so that Trigvi gets a task to say, you should reach out to Mary because she's been burning up the site. Something's hot and she really wants to chat, and she may want to chat. And then you can have a respectful, interesting conversation that doesn't sound big brothery. You don't want to say, hey, I heard you were on our website. But, on the same breath, you can say, this is something that, they downloaded a blog. So here's an additional resource that you might be interested in. If you just have WordPress, or if you just have something that's not integrated with the rest of the system, there's no chance to do that, right? So it's just a better conversation. We love engaging with our clients and with working with them on a much deeper level. So campaigns is super important. And that's just bucketing entire intents into a set of rules. So if someone is interested in something on your website, you give them more of what they're looking for. Trigvi mentioned it before. It's like a choose your own adventure, right? So you give them more. That's inbound marketing in a nutshell, right? And then in delighting them, you can give them more. You can customize the website so that it looks like what that person needs, not just an E for everybody conversation. So it's just much more integrated, much more connected. And then, of course, if you're managing the revenue for your organization, if you're an owner, if you're a CRO or a CMO for your business, you need to have the analytics to know if any of that stuff is working and to be able to tweak things as they go to get better results. The worst thing you can do is set it and forget it, especially in today's world. So it's like
before we hop off this,
hands, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with HubSpot. But Andy, yeah.
One thing that you had mentioned was the contacts and the fact that it sets tasks.
Mm-hmm.
That is possible within WordPress. However, you have to log into WordPress to be able to do that. The nice thing about HubSpot is that this puts it right in the CRM and sets the tasks right in the CRM. So you're not going into multiple systems to try and find, do I have a task here? How do I get that data into my CRM? And what am I going to do with it at that point in time? So I think that's also a key value here, is that with that, it's right where your sales team or your marketing team are working daily, and they can get those tasks and make those changes as needed, or reach out to those folks as needed.
Yeah. Well, and I think the key is that it's easier, right? And HubSpot isn't a panacea for everything. WordPress isn't the one-shot solution, because there's drawbacks. We're going to talk about that next because we're talking about WordPress. It's important to note that even if you do have WordPress and you never plan to change from WordPress, HubSpot integrates with WordPress anyway.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you're not lost. And I'd say 80% of our clients still have WordPress websites. But, we're migrating folks over and kind of showing them the light one client at a time to give them better experiences for hopefully less money as well.
There used to be 40, 50 years ago, there used to be a big Hatfield and McCoy feeling about whether or not you should buy a Ford or whether or not you should buy a Chevy.
Right.
And everybody who was a Ford fan would just roll your eyes and explain why a Chevy was so bad. And the Chevy people are the same way, and they could tell you what's great about a Chevy and what's terrible about a Ford.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, nobody really makes a bad car anymore. And similarly, WordPress is by no means a bad thing to build on. It really just depends on what do you need and how do you need it, and what are you willing to put into your thing that you're going to be using on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't a knock of WordPress by any means.
Oh,
Staying on WordPress is not a bad option. It's just there are things that go along with that decision.
Right. I guess the biggest question you need to ask yourself if you're deciding WordPress versus HubSpot is how serious are you about using your website as a marketing and sales tool? So, that's probably the big quote at the end of all this. But let's talk about WordPress because there's a lot to it. I mean, it's the biggest publishing platform on the web, and it didn't get there by sucking. So, Andy, tell us about what WordPress is. And you've been doing WordPress for 12
since
years?
2008. So I don't know, what is that? Almost going on 18 years?
Yeah,
Something
good
like
gravy.
that?
Yeah,
Oh.
back when Matt Mullenweg still couldn't shave, I don't think.
Yes.
So,
so it is popular. I think at the latest stats, WordPress is operating somewhere around 43% of all websites on the internet right now.
Gravy, yeah.
It's a very popular open source, but it has been around a long time. It's open source, so that means that the code at its core can be modified and can be changed to do whatever you want it to do, which kind of leads to the limitless possibilities. With it, you can make anything from games to websites to systems for saving different records that you have at your house to whatever you need it to do. It does have an extensive ecosystem. There's 58,000 plus plugins that are available out on the internet for WordPress. It's portable. You can zip up all your files, take your database, and just about any host in the world will be able to handle a WordPress site. It does have e-commerce, like I mentioned earlier, at its base level. You can install WooCommerce, which is also owned by the same company that develops WordPress, which is automatic, and you can install it and it works. It's out of the box. It works. You can get something up and going.
Sweet.
I think the key here is it works, but the investment in time to learn is sometimes more difficult than it's worth. And we can get into that. I think in the next slide we talk a little bit more about that. There are definitely hosting challenges with WordPress. With any hosting, you get what you pay for when you're looking at the open market. So if you're looking at a low-level $1.99 per month host, you're going to get what you pay for at $1.99 per month. If you're looking at something that's $50 or $60 a month, that's probably something that's going to have more resources behind it.
What is the difference between the two? So if I pay $1.99 a month, what do I really get for that?
What you're getting is a spot in a folder on a server, generally, and you're sharing those resources. So that's going to be your RAM, your CPU, all of your processing power for that server with potentially hundreds of other sites, maybe even thousands, depending on the hosting environment. So if one site gets attacked or gets a lot of traffic, your site is at potential risk for just going down, not necessarily being attacked or having malicious activity done to it, but because of all the resources being sucked up by this other site, your site could potentially go down or become slower.
Right.
And that slow in the long term actually reflects more poorly on you than just a single downtime. The slow over a long term Google will start indexing you lower because of your response time. This goes back to the discussion we had earlier about what should a website page load in. If you've got something that's loading in 5-6 seconds because another site on the server is taking all the resources, Google will say, well, this site is loading too slowly. Let's find something else out there that does the same information.
Cool. Okay.
At the $50 to $60 level, you're probably looking at either dedicated server or dedicated resources at a minimum. So you're looking at, dedicated RAM, dedicated CPUs, probably faster overall operating systems, newer hardware, possibly solid state drives versus standard mechanical hard drives. All of that affects load speed and how your site responds.
Okay. Well, and that'll make sense. And it's again, performance is the name of the game as far as getting out there. Google is just as impatient as the rest of us, and the Googlebot isn't going to hang around. If it takes 10 seconds for your website to load, it's just going to say, oh, okay, well, this site must be busted. And it's going to keep on trucking. So you're not going to rank for that stuff. So I think that's an important distinction. I have a couple of quick reference things that I wanted to hit. So with HubSpot, of course, it's completely integrated within the rest of HubSpot, right? So CMS is the big thing that you get on both. It's a website, but you get marketing built in, sales built in, customer service software built in, and operations where you can tie in your ERP and everything else built in with HubSpot. So that's an important distinction. Likewise, I think as we look at HubSpot versus WordPress, hosting, again, it's included. The $300 is what you pay, and that's it. And I have a little bit more data that I want to share about what the additional costs are of WordPress, because it's an eye opener for many of our clients, and something that's just bears repeating. Plugins, it's all kind of built in the HubSpot ecosystem. It's all built in HubL anyway. So 80% of the 650 apps are included with CMS Hub, and there's a lot of plugins that are free on WordPress, but out of the 58,000 plugins, you're going to be spending money on some of them. As a matter of fact, we host a couple hundred websites, Andy, in WordPress, and a good chunk of the investment that our clients pay is wrapped up in developer licenses for plugins that they need to manage. Security, we talked about it, it's included. And you need something like Security or some other security hardening tools if you're going to have WordPress out there. It's just like having a PC. You're not going to walk around without some sort of research or some sort of security hardening in the world of WordPress, because it's just not a great idea. And then maintenance, most of our clients are on a maintenance plan on WordPress, and it's eating up a ton of time. That's why we've made the decision to start helping our clients see the light on maybe a different CMS, and or finding them a partner that's going to take more time, because we were using a couple people worth of time every year just maintaining all of these WordPress websites. So I want to stop my presentation. I'm just going to
before we stop. One thing that was brought up in the breakout session that I was in was spam fills with forms in HubSpot versus WordPress, and I think that was an interesting question. The spam fills and form fills on WordPress, you need to put in generally a reCAPTCHA to be able to stop those from coming in. And even now, it seems that a lot of the bots out there, a lot of the distributed hacking can still get around those and be able to do form fills. Whereas on HubSpot, because again, you're in a distributed network and they are managing the security on thousands of sites at the same time, they can start to see patterns on form fills and start blocking some of those bots at the IP address immediately so that they never hit your site. The other thing you can do is if they do come through, because you are hooked in directly into your CRM, into your customer resource management software, you can put these users that might be getting through that are spammy into what are called suppression lists. So they don't get any marketing and they don't count against any of your marketing contacts within HubSpot. So I think that's one thing that came up that we discussed a little bit in our breakout session. That's a real positive for HubSpot as well.
Right. Or maybe just gently redirect them right to a site that can maybe help them, update their car's warranty or something.
Exactly. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Create that custom content for them, right?
Right. We talked a little bit about pricing and what it really costs to host CMS versus WordPress. And since we're in that space right now, before Andy goes into demo, I wanted to share this. The software license, of course, on HubSpot is free, and with HubSpot CMS, it's for the pro version, it's $500 or $300 a month, $50 a month if you do the starter, which is limited to 50 pages, doesn't have some of the interaction capabilities like the customization capabilities, and you can't do e-commerce in anything other than enterprise on HubSpot CMS. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But hosting, to get a good host, $50 to $1,000 a month on a big WordPress website. And plugins, this is the stuff that's built in. This is usually an eye opener when we have a client that's been working with us for years and years and years. They're like, well, I don't want to spend the $500 a month with you guys anymore, or $500 a year in our case for WordPress hosting. Then we tell them, okay, well, all you need to do is buy all these plugins that we hold developer licenses for and kind of distribute the cost. But you're looking at, up to like $167 a month on average for that 20 to 50 plugins that it takes to run a WordPress website. So that's a big deal. And then you got to get security, and that's right around that $30 to $40 a month for security. And then you're going to need somebody to maintain it because things break, things bust, whatever. So all in, we're really talking about $150 to $1,500 a month to round it up, versus just straight $300 a month for HubSpot. Does that sound about right, Andy?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I was thinking that the plugin cost might actually be a little low based on what I've seen with a lot of our clients.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, this isn't a sales pitch for HubSpot CMS. It's an eye opener though. So Andy, can you take over sharing and give us a demo of what HubSpot looks like, and going through advanced editing and bringing it back, and then we'll close out at about probably 5 minutes till. So if you have questions as things are going up, please do pop those into chat. But Andy, take it away and share a little bit of that demo of what CMS looks like versus WordPress, and show us behind the scenes.
I wanted to when I was preparing this morning for and getting all the windows open, we were talking about plugins, and I just wanted to show. We looked up security plugins and just said, okay, what are security plugins? So I did a quick search on security plugin. There's 20 per page, and there's over 51 pages of security plugins. How do we know which one's going to work? Which one's not going to cause a conflict? Which one's not going to break my site? Which one's going to stop the bad guys?
Right.
Similarly, did the same thing for caching, and it's again 20 pages, over 51, and I'm not even sure if I get up to 51, if it keeps going beyond that. It might. No, looks like there's only 51 pages of bolts for
only at like 15 up top. Yeah.
So again, how do you know it's going to work? What's the time investment to be able to do this, right? So you can, and in the long run, you have to evaluate, is this worth it? And is it the time that I'm investing in trying to figure this out and making it work worth the investment into my website? Absolutely can be. And for many, many years, BusyWeb very much was on that board and said, yep, we have got a system that works. We've tried all these plugins. You don't have to worry about it. We will take it for you. But you were paying us to do that as well. We, in the last 6 months, have transferred our site over to HubSpot. I will be 100% honest. I was not on board with HubSpot when we first went with it to go with the CMS. The speed enhancements that we've gotten out of it, the increase in visitors to the sites has all been great. When we go into the back end of HubSpot, I will actually create a quick page for you just so you can see the ease at which we can create a site or a site page and get it going. So we come in, we had created already and set up the template with the header and the footer. But if I come in and grab just a standard page template, it automatically comes in with everything I need. If I want to add anything else on the left-hand side, I can simply drag and drop and add what the content is that I need. Adjust the size width on any columns that I put together. Add in, let me jump down and add in a team member section, and all of these numbers we can put in. This is a and so we can add in specific items. Oops. And keep adding in different numbers. These will render on the fly. So
cool.
If I preview this just this quickly, we've put together a simple section within a page. It doesn't take much to put it together. Once you're done, you can go through, add in a title, put a meta description in, put any content slugs in, and set the page up so that it's connected with any of the campaigns that you might have within your organization. Again, simple drag drop, not a difficult system to put together at all. We can continue to add if we wanted to and put different labels on different things and put it all together. Really easy. When we're ready, we can publish it now or we can schedule it for later down the road. We can also set it to unpublish at a specific date. WordPress, this is an advantage over WordPress out of the box to be able to unpublish at a specific date is not available in WordPress. So if you had something that you needed to only be up for a limited amount of time, this is one of the advantages of HubSpot out of the box over WordPress. Optimization, you can add in tools within WordPress to do this, but this gives you basics on SEO and what you need to do for SEO. So for example, I have no page title, crawling and indexing. It says that, the page is able to be indexed. I'm missing all of this. So anything that's in red, I'm missing on the site itself. So this gives me some indicators of what best practices are to go back and make changes. If I want to come in and I want to add in anything, I can go right in and start typing and change the content on the fly.
Cool.
And it's done. So,
okay.
Like I said, super easy, super fast. And then auto saves on the fly. If I exit out, my page is right here in the list. And if I wanted to, I could even clone this to make additional pages quickly and easily.
Right. So if I had a product or something.
Yep. If you had a product, if you had a service that you wanted to use a similar layout, just wanted to change the content, you can clone it, go in and change that service offering.
Paul had a great question, Andy. He says, given that it typically takes approvals before publishing, is there an automated approval capability?
Sure. Automated approval, no, but all pages sit in draft mode until they're published. So WordPress, you can set it as pending review, but in HubSpot, you can set it as draft. You can also take any page within your website and take it down to a staging site within the CMS, do all the work on the staging site, and then push it back up to the live site. You first have to create a page on the main site before you move it back down to a staging site, but you can have a full staging environment right within your HubSpot CMS, which is generally not, unless you're on the higher end hosting environments, is not a standard feature with many of them.
Got it.
So,
well, and if you have HubSpot, like especially like sales or marketing already, you could assign a task to someone to go to the page and edit it, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and then that would pop right up in your dashboard on your HubSpot in the morning. You could send it or set it to send an email to that person and have it. Again, it's just built into the system. So great question, Paul.
Yep. So this is the staging. All of our pages are sitting on the staging environment as well. We can go in and edit them. We can say we want to stage this piece, and we're going to stage the clones page. It's now moved to the staging environment. We can make the changes to the About Us page. And then when we're ready, we can publish to staging. And then from staging, we can publish it up to production.
Sweet.
Next, we wanted to take a look. There's some advanced editing as well using different tools. One of the tools that we've started using is a tool called Sprocket Rocket. The nice thing about this tool is that you set up your system on HubSpot, and you can more quickly and easily prototype out what you want to do on your site by adding modules into an area. So for example, here I am going to simply add some modules in here, and we can preview pages really quickly on what we might want the site to look like. So I'm going to grab a footer here as well. Oops, I want the big footer. And on the fly, we're easily building a layout on a page. Once this page is set here, I will call this. This is when within the Sprocket Rocket application, I can add this page, and I can decide whether I want it to be a landing page or a website page. It's pushing it right now to HubSpot. And once it's there, I can go into HubSpot and edit the content within that page. It will take that header I put in there and put your default header in. If I go down to the footer, you may or may not need to change out the logo, but it puts in all of the additional information. And then I can go in and edit the content. So if you're doing a quick layout or you're a UX person within your organization, you can actually put this into put it together and then have your content people go in and make the edits and then run the test on it. So
Andy, Clark just had a fantastic question. He said, if you already use a drag and drop page builder for WordPress like Elementor, what kind of advantages would you say switching to HubSpot would provide?
Sure, there's a couple of advantages. Elementor, WP Bakery, and a couple of the other ones are wonderful page builders. Depending on how you're using them and the host that you're using them on, they can also slow down your site because they're loading in additional JavaScript files. They're loading in additional elements on top of the core WordPress environment. So that adds additional load time, potential slowdown of the site. Not all of them, but some of them can slow down the sites more. The drag and drop within HubSpot gives you the ability, especially if you're looking at HubSpot's Pro for the marketing level, you can get the customized content. So you can start adding that customized content based on your personas or your visitors or how many times they visited the site. That gives you some more insight, as well as some of the insights that you get through the CRM and through the analytics within HubSpot that you don't out of the box get with WordPress. You can pull some of it using Data Studio and Google Analytics, but it's not natively there as it is in HubSpot.
Okay. Well, and I don't remember if you were going to have a example of a WordPress backend.
Sure.
But like the drag and drop that's built in to HubSpot or WordPress right now is okay, but it doesn't look nearly as good as this, right? Or as HubSpot. So it's not quite as user friendly. I mean, once you get used to it, anything is doable, but you know, comparing and contrasting this experience with the experience that Andy just showed you, you know, this is
So I can add images. I mean, it's not difficult once, like Dave said, as you figure your way around, but it does take a little bit more time to get in and learn how to set things up and drag them around and stuff like that. So,
and is this a similar experience to like an Elementor?
the new Gutenberg editor is similar to Elementor, especially now that they've added patterns in, which allow you to build out pages and everything else within. But Elementor, you can do full page build in that. So.
It sounds like we have a couple of folks that are dropping off and need to go because it is close to the top of the hour. Sure. I do want to share a couple of things before folks need to blast off. So if I can just switch back to my screen. Thanks, Andy. The big part is that HubSpot is not a Franken marketing system. So if you want to work smarter and not harder, that's the way to go. And the big thing that I wanted to leave everyone with is the link here. We have a overview post at bit.ly/hs-wp. So I'm going to type that in here for folks. That's the blog post that we made about this. And if you haven't seen that, please check that out because it has a couple of additional resources to assign and to give a try as you're doing that. So go ahead to bit.ly/hs-wp. And of course, you can reach us on any of our names, Andy, Dave, Trygve, @busyweb.com, if you have a specific follow-up question. And for folks that are watching this in the recording or that want to rewatch, this is going to be available on our YouTube channel. And we're going to be publishing this out on the socials as well. So thanks to everyone for joining. This was super fun. Remember to subscribe and become a member of the Twin Cities or of the Midwest Manufacturing Hub. We're going to do something like this every month, bringing in different topics, different HubSpot related things. I think this was probably our most platform agnostic talk that we're going to do because everything else is going to be tips, tricks, and introducing you to people that rock in HubSpot. But if you want to get a hold of us, we'd love to chat. And I hope this found some or was helpful for you in some small measure. As it's a big change. It's a big difference between the two. And I think it's going to be a big thing for us as BusyWeb as a bet to the future. Any parting thoughts, notes, Andy?
No, I think the big key here is evaluate what you need your platform to do and how much time and money you want to invest into it. And I think both platforms are solid platforms. It's just a business decision more than anything else.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, everybody. It's great seeing you, and we'll talk to y'all soon. We've got another event coming up. We're going to be publicizing it shortly. We are just in the middle of choosing. So if you have something that you've always wanted to know about with HubSpot, go ahead and send us a note there as well. Thanks, everybody, and I hope this helped you generate buzz without getting stung. Talk to you soon.
Bye.